Hi, my name's David and I'm the director of the language school here in Denver, Colorado, and I'm really excited to share with you today a new program that I've been working on called 5 Easy Steps to Speak Spanish with Confidence. If you follow the steps that I present to you here in the coming days, you will be able to speak Spanish within 3 months. So I really hope that you like what you see here. I'm really excited to teach you the stuff that I've learned over the years. The importance of these steps can't be stressed enough. There are a lot of ways to learn Spanish out there, but if you don't have a really good game plan to study Spanish, you can really get lost in the complications and the complexities of the grammar, the rules, the words, the verb conjugations. I mean, there's really nothing quite as complex as learning a new language. But what I've developed here is a great system that really takes the complexity out of it, simplifies it, and makes it a really fun and enjoyable experience. So I really hope that you can take the time to work through these steps. It's not that complicated. You'll see from today's lesson, our first easy step is to write about your objectives and your inspiration with the language. So, I'm outlining this because of my own personal experiences with trying to study Spanish. I'm now fully fluent and I'm actually a Spanish professor these days, but it was really hard for me. I was really dedicated and I really wanted to learn how to speak Spanish, but I'm sure, like a lot of you that are out there watching this video, I tried everything. I studied Spanish in high school, I studied Spanish in college, I did pure immersion programs. My first experience with learning Spanish, I got on a plane and went to Spain and did a full immersion program living with a host family. And of course I've tried any number of software applications, Rosetta Stone, Duolingo. I mean, I tried everything that was out there, but I was really frustrated, especially when I was living in Spain. I was at the point after about 2 weeks of living with this host family that I was ready to throw in the towel. I wanted to come back to the United States. I wasn't able to speak with anybody. I wasn't understanding anything. My teacher, I'm sure she was a great teacher, but she didn't speak English, so I couldn't understand what she was saying. And I was really frustrated. So about 2 weeks into it, I sat down and I was at the point of coming back to the United States. I decided to sleep on it, and instead of just going ahead and giving up, I sat down that night and I wrote about my objectives with the Spanish language. So you can see these are my real objectives that I'm listing here. I want to be able to speak with my neighbors. At the time I was living in an apartment complex here in Colorado where I'd say about 90% of my neighbors were from Mexico. So, just having the friendly conversations, hey, how's it going? What's new? That sort of thing. It's odd when you're living next to somebody and you can't even have that kind of little basic small talk type of conversation. I wanted a Spanish-speaking girlfriend. I mean, let's be honest, Latin people are really hot. I wanted to travel around Latin America. I was young at the time. I was 18 when I started learning how to speak Spanish. And, I had these ideas of just adventure and glory and getting on a motorcycle and traveling from Mexico down to Argentina. And Spanish would help me with that. At the time, I was also working in construction, and here in the United States, I would say 80% of the people that work in construction these days are Spanish-speaking people, so I wanted to be able to talk to the people, everybody I was working with. I didn't want to work in construction forever, so I wanted to be able to put on my resume that I was bilingual, to be able to work in the professional world, and not so much just here in the United States, but I wanted to be flexible to be able to work anywhere in the world. Our world is global these days, the world is flat, and we just never know what's going to happen. So being able to be flexible and work here in the United States, work in Spain, work in Argentina, that's something that was really appealing to me. After that, I decided to write down my daily dialogues that I was having with people. So one thing that I noticed while I was in class, my teacher was trying to teach us, these, complex grammar structures and rules, the difference between por and para and how to conjugate all these verbs. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, this doesn't really help me order food at a restaurant. And that's what I needed to do on a daily basis. So I thought about like my daily activities. What do I do every day? Well, I get up, I leave my apartment, I have to go down to the local corner store and buy something. I had to eat, I was eating out 2 or 3 times a day. So I was having to order food, and also I was meeting people for the first time and constantly having to introduce myself. My name is David, I'm from the United States, I like playing basketball, kind of that, small talk introductory stuff. And when I started doing that, and then I started translating those kind of daily interactions from English into Spanish, what I found was I actually ended up having a lot of success with the language. So I kind of stopped paying attention to my teacher, as odd as that sounds, and I just started doing my own thing. I decided not to go back to the United States, and I stuck with my program in Spain. And about a week later, after I started doing this journal activity, I had my first conversation with a taxi cab driver. He was taking me home from Las Ramblas to my apartment, which is about a 10-minute drive. I didn't realize it actually until I went upstairs and I kind of laid down to go to sleep, and I jumped out of bed about 10 minutes later, and I realized that entire 10-minute taxi drive, I was actually speaking to the driver in Spanish. And so it was a really cool experience when I started focusing on those daily interactions. I introduced myself to the taxi cab driver, started telling him where I was from, what I was doing in Spain, and it ended up being kind of a magical transition that happened almost immediately. So step number 1, get a notebook. And just so you know how serious I am about these steps, I'm actually learning another language right now, and I've got my new notebook for this. So get a notebook, and what you want to do is kind of divide it into different sections. So one of the first sections that I would say is write about your reasons and objectives, like I just mentioned. Start creating some of your daily dialogues, and what you'll do is you'll actually write the dialogues that you're having down in English, and then you'll later translate them into Spanish. So this is an example, I've got my daily dialogues that I'm having in my new language that I'm learning. So it works actually, it works really beautifully when you do this. You can have another section related to vocabulary, another one related to conversation starters, and then just another one. I think it's important to always have personal reflection, so create another one related to personal reflection as well. And I'm going to talk about each one of these in a little bit more detail. So you can see here, I've got personal and professional objectives laid out from that original list that I just talked to you about. The reason why you want to do this is it's going to take you some time. With this plan, you're going to greatly accelerate the learning process, and you should become somewhat conversational within about 3 months. But if you truly want to master the language, it's going to take you, a lot of time. So I like having these objectives so that if you ever kind of get to a point where you get bored with the studies, or you get frustrated, you get to a new concept that you don't quite understand, you can go back to the reasons why you're learning the language and remind yourself, oh yeah, I really want to be able to talk to my neighbors, or I want to enhance my resume and make some more money or be more competitive in the job market, and then you'll remember, yep, got to stick with it. Dialogues. This is really, really important, because if you write down the daily conversations that you're actually having, you're going to start focusing yourself on the studies that are going to be important to you, that are going to help you start having real conversations right away. It's going to be relevant, and it's going to be practical. One of the challenges that I encountered when I was studying Spanish is, in my university programs or my high school programs, they were teaching us vocabulary that wasn't helping us talk, like you have to be able to practice Spanish and start speaking it, and you have to start introducing yourself to people. So think about that first initial introduction. What are you going to talk about? You're going to talk about where you're from, what you like to do for fun, what you do for work, that sort of thing. And I'm sure you can appreciate this because almost every student I've ever worked with has studied Spanish at some point in the past. ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? That doesn't help us start a conversation with anybody. That's not something, I mean, I can't even remember as an adult the last time that I went to the library, so I don't know why that's one of those things that they really drill you on in class. You want to learn the Spanish that's practical and relevant for you. Now, let's take a look at one of the dialogues. This is our third step with our journal, right? You want to start writing your daily dialogue. So imagine you're married. You might want to be able to have the following conversation with your wife, or this might be like a daily interaction that you have. So you say, "Hi, honey, how are you? I'm good. What do you want for dinner? Ooh, I'm hungry. I want a steak. Do you want to drink wine with that? Yes, good idea. Thanks. I love you. I love you too." Now, this is a real conversation that you probably have every single day. So write that down and then translate it into Spanish. And we get, "Hola, amor, ¿cómo estás? Estoy bien. ¿Qué deseas para la cena? Tengo hambre. Deseo un bistec. ¿Deseas acompañarlo con vino? Sí, buena idea. Gracias. Te quiero. Te quiero también." And now you've learned something that you can actually start using every single day. If you're learning Spanish that you don't use on a daily basis, you're going to lose your motivation. Vocabulary. So an interesting thing, actually, when it comes to speaking any language, almost 80-85% of your daily communications are made up of only 1,000 words. So if you can learn how to speak, if you can learn 1,000 new words in Spanish, and I break it down into 10 new words per day, you're going to know enough Spanish within 3 months to be able to speak in 80-85% of your daily interactions. So these are just my suggestions. You have to personalize this for you, but when you're thinking about relevance, what's relevant to you, if you're living in a new country, or even just for speaking Spanish in your local communities here, things that you're going to want to talk about are food, home, office, work, the things you like to do for fun, your daily activities, your hobbies, that sort of thing. So you start building little lists, 10 words at a time. What are the top, what's your favorite thing to eat? Write that down and then translate it into Spanish. And it's going to excite you. It's going to be a lot of fun when you start being able to talk about the things that you want to talk about versus what your teacher might be teaching you in a program. And then also, I think it's always good just to have, a couple of conversation starters in your back pocket, just in case you happen to be at the grocery store and you hear somebody speaking Spanish. If you live here in Denver, or practically any city in the United States these days, there are no shortage of opportunities in which you can find yourself speaking Spanish with somebody. But one of the biggest challenges, especially if you're a little bit shy or timid, and that tends to be multiplied when you're going into your second language, sometimes you don't know what to say. So think of just a couple of phrases, and if you'd like to use the ones I suggest here, they'll be great for you. You can start conversations with people everywhere you go. So my first and my favorite one is, "Hola, me llamo David. ¿Podemos practicar español?" And that's just saying, "Hi, my name's David. Can we practice Spanish?" Right? I lived in 5 different Spanish-speaking countries, and not once did somebody say no to that. So people are going to get excited when they hear the gringo speaking Spanish. They're going to say, "Wow," and it's really going to excite them, and they're going to get curious. They're going to talk to you. I guarantee it. Next one. ¿Qué te gusta hacer para divertirte? Everybody likes to talk about what they like to do for fun. So you can use this anywhere you go. ¿Cuáles son tus intereses? What are your interests? This is going to get people excited about talking to you. And then, ¿qué te hace feliz? What makes you happy? These are also they have some psychology built into them that are guaranteed to open up conversations. When people think about what makes them happy, they're going to automatically smile, and they're going to say, Me gusta bailar salsa. I like dancing salsa. And next thing you know, you've warmed them up. They're going to start talking to you. You're going to start having conversations. It'll be a lot of fun. One of the last steps I have here is on personal reflection. I think it's just kind of a cool thing to do as you go through this language acquisition process. Sit down at the end of the day or at the end of the week and just think about the conversations you had in Spanish. Think about the things that worked for you. Think about the things that didn't work for you. Think about what you wish you could have done better, and then you'll also start getting back to that kind of cycle of learning things that are relevant for you. And I think it's really important as you go through and with the personal reflection. Don't focus so much on what you weren't able to say, but congratulate yourself for the small victories that you had. As I mentioned, I'm studying a new language. I started studying this new language, Swahili, about a month ago. And a couple of days ago, I found myself at a coffee shop where somebody was speaking the language. I recognized it, and I actually started talking to them. And I can't tell you how excited I felt after that time. It wasn't a big conversation. I've been studying for a month, so I'm not going to say like we went into some huge detail, but I was able to introduce myself, and it surprised the person. We talked for about 5 minutes, and that was that. It made me so happy. It made me so excited, so I wrote that down in my little book here, and it's just, this is where the magic starts happening. Once you start speaking the new language, so I think the personal reflection is a really good step for you. So, as you're going through this language learning process, I would love to help you out with it. If you're local to the Denver area, you can stop by our school anytime. The language school is located in Northeast Denver, kind of close to I-70 and I-225. Our exact address is 4730 Oakland Street, Suite 300, Denver, Colorado, 80239. We've got a lot more information on our website, and you can give us a call anytime, 303-997-9207. Please let me know how we did with this video. I'd love to hear your feedback. Leave us a message in the comment box below, and have fun.